Welcome everyone to another community call here, where today we only have one topic, and I think this is pretty prescient based on the interview that Brian did with Lex Friedman. We've gotten like a lot of interest, a lot of like cold emails coming into ResearchHub, and a lot of people reaching out to join the community. And so this is suggested by Jeff, and he wanted to chat about how do we like best incorporate new interested people who kind of like want to start joining the ResearchHub community. Like, should we formalize that process? Does anyone have any suggestions on how we can, I guess, like best welcome new people who are interested in contributing to ResearchHub? I guess, Jeff, do you have any more context there?
Jeff left the group.
Got kicked out. I mean, that's what is on the screen. So let me send him a message.
But I guess the same question applies. I guess, Tyler, you know, you're someone who like heard the interview and reached out. Like, do you mind just kind of like with a fresh pair of eyes describing what it's like joining the community, like any hiccups or anything or any places to improve that you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, so just in terms of like talking to everyone, it's been fantastic. The fact that I can join this community call, you know, on day one was pretty incredible. Everyone was super responsive over DMs and in the Discord. I guess one thing that could be improved maybe is how we access the bounties and then, you know, what's being taken care of. I think we talked about that a couple times already though, so aware. In terms of people fitting in, I don't know, it depends how big the tasks are. Like if there's a nice discretized tasks, then it's nice and easy for, you know, people to hop in, see if they could chip away at one, grab it. But if there's more big picture ideas, then maybe the next step would be to try and break them down and to try and see if there's different groups of people that can help, you know, whether it's like outward facing content, some videos, some publications, not publications, but documents, stuff like that could probably be helpful.
And so you're referring to like the D-Work bounties, right? On like community tasks for people to help out with?
Exactly. Yeah, it seemed like when I first tried one, I had to kind of like request to do it, and it was to upload a paper. And then since then, I've been trying to talk to developers a little bit about doing some front-end dev work. And so I'm still trying to figure out about how to tackle those bounties.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so one of the best parts about this interview is we've gotten like a bunch of like pretty talented engineering like minded folks to reach out and want to contribute in like an open source fashion. And so I think Kobe's been in charge of kind of leading up that effort. And we probably do need to formalize like a way for like engineering help to come in and like tackle like small bugs and like I guess feature requests. Well, one thing we can do for the D-Work stuff is maybe add it to the website somewhere. Like we could have a tab, maybe in the about page of like, hey, if you're here and you want to help out, here's like the best place for people to go to start to like learn on what they could contribute to.
That'd be great. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Cool. Yeah, we could definitely do that.
Edwin, I think you're muted, by the way.
Having a clear link to that from the Discord would be super helpful.
Where would you want to see that in the Discord, Edwin?
Let's see.
There's like an important links channel that should have the link to D-Work on there.
Yeah, so every new bounty that is created goes in the D-Work one, but we don't have a fixed kind of like link to the D-Work general page, let's say.
Yeah, but we should probably post them, like periodically post them in the announcements so that people who don't know to go to that specific channel will like just.
What about like a recap? Like every 2 weeks, we recap like, wait, we have like 20 open bounties on D-Work.
Yeah.
Okay, that could, okay.
I would also second putting it on the website somewhere that's not on Discord, because like I don't know about other people, but I hate trying to find like long-term information on Discord. It's a mess and takes a lot of time, whereas a website, it's right there, it's easy to find. And that's something you always see people link then very easily, rather than saying, go look on Discord on channel announcements when maybe Edwin posted the latest list. That's hard.
Totally. Yeah, having like a permanent place on the website, I think makes a lot of sense. One of the tabs that Kobe's been thinking a lot about how to redesign the homepage. And one of the tabs that he wants to add is like a community page where it's like, hey, what's actively happening in the community right now? And I think that's a really good spot for that to live for people who want to like jump into the community and start helping out.
It's a good idea.
I was also just putting something in there to highlight that people have made wins for the community. Like Edwin made a new video and like that should be on there with a little picture of Evan being cute. He made a nice video, and that way people get like social credibility around completing new things.
Really?
Yes.
No, it's such a great point, because this is actually a suggestion that we had like maybe about a month ago. Someone wanted like a regular newsletter just to like be able to keep up with what's going on in the community, and also like having suggestions of like, hey, I have 30 seconds today, how can I help? You know, retweet the latest tweet or something. Like, I have an hour, how can I help? I have 12 hours, how can I help? Like really like specific prompts for people on a regular basis on what we could use help with. And I think a newsletter is like the best way to help communicate that kind of thing.
Yeah. Agreed.
There's somebody who reached out who was actually like a scientific writer, and they expressed some interest in actually like putting together that newsletter. So just to keep everybody in the loop, that we might have somebody who would be willing to do that.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we should totally do that. I guess, Jeff, just to kind of circle back a little bit, did you have any additional context about like what you wanted to discuss today when it comes to like how we can incorporate new community members better?
The camera's being all weird. No, mostly just the fact that we had kind of like a bigger influx of people coming in after the podcast. So I don't know if kind of the right way to do it is to do so. Like what I did with Tyler, for example, was we found a time, we talked for like 15 to 20 minutes. Like it was a little informal on, you know, what I felt was important was asking to see where exactly they would like to be plugged in and where their strengths are. So maybe kind of laying out like a structured kind of bullet points on what to ask during a little 15 to 20 minute interview, see where their strengths are, and then plug them. I think people work hard and enjoy their time when they're working on something that they desire, rather than us trying to plug them into something that maybe it's not the best fit. And so I guess mostly just talking about maybe like the details and logistics of what we want to ask in like those short interviews, and then after that short interview, what to do afterwards.
I would underline that short interview could be used as well to orient them to what's going on in the community right now. What are the main things? What are the big ambitions? What are the current debates? Because like, if you're outside the community, it can be really hard to understand that when you're first coming into it. Like, I don't even know most of what's going on. Evan told me to join today, so I did. And that's about it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think maybe a good thing we can do is have like a running like list somewhere very like visible where everybody can we could direct people and say, hey, here's some like, you know, open things that are being worked on at the current moment by the entire community.
Yeah, maybe another thing we can do too with these community calls is take like the first like 10 minutes and just have it be like, you know, current happenings. So we could refer people to this video and just have it be like, hey, here's like exactly what's happening in ResearchHub right now, before we even do that kind of onboarding call.
I think like a 5-minute recap at the beginning of like each of the comm calls would probably be very good. Like, you know, we have like a pretty big like marketing like effort going on, and like content creation and graphic design stuff going on with like 5 or 6 people. And so, you know, that's something probably a bunch of people didn't know, but, you know, we're taking little snippets of videos and chopping up videos from SciCon and using videos from different sources. And so trying to up the YouTube presence. So, yeah, I think updating people on things like that would be great.
I guess another thing too is it's becoming like pretty apparent that we have to have better documentation for the community. Like, do you think it'd be useful if we put time into like a Git book, kind of like a lot of projects have a Git book describing like almost everything to do with their projects? Like, we could refer people to that as like an initial kind of introduction. They can dive in as deep as they'd want to.
That would be
Yeah, that sounds
opposed
great.
to that would be basically an alternative to Notion, or would be in addition to Notion.
I think in addition, Git book sometimes is like a lot easier to digest. I think the like UI of it's better. I'll show you an example in a second. Let me pull it up. Here's Ave's. I'll link it here in the chat. It's just like really nice kind of like knowledge base, essentially like a wiki. And you can set it up in a way where anyone can edit it. It can be like tied to a GitHub repo, and you can just make pull requests into it. So we could have the community kind of work together to like, add all of the context needed. We'd even have a section that's like, hey, new to ResearchHub, like start here.
Yeah, it feels pretty neat, and a lot of like Web3 projects have this kind of docs. So yeah, I'm down to go for a Gitbook.
Yeah, 100% agree with Ricardo. This is a necessity, basically. I can't believe we don't have it. I can't believe I didn't think to mention that we don't have it.
So we have the leads call tomorrow. We should put this as a priority to start. I can like get a very early one set up. I did one earlier for a fantasy football league. So like I'm kind of like, like very, very cursory interest in Gitbook and get it going. But yeah, I think even having pull requests, the mechanism of it is pretty cool, where like anyone can make suggestions on how to improve it, and then you just have to have someone accept it. So yeah, I'll get that started before our call tomorrow.
And do you think we should kind of like display it better on the ResearchHub website, so make it easier for people to find the about page, or you think it's just like easy accessible? Because I don't go there much often because I don't need to, but maybe someone new. I don't know if that's easy to find or not. Maybe we should ask that, kind of like do a survey if we can, because I feel like that's really important. Someone goes to ResearchHub and want to find out more. They want to find something and should be readily available.
Yeah, so based on the Hotjar, which is kind of like a analytics tool to show like how people use ResearchHub, a lot of people go to the About page. It's like one of the first things people do typically. So we could even, like, I think our About page is pretty outdated and needs a facelift. So we could even just replace that with the Gitbook, if it's like complete enough. Because even our About page now like doesn't have too much information. And when people come in from like, like Lex's podcast, like I think Brian and Lex did a really good job of distilling like ResearchHub to the core of what we're trying to accomplish, like in those like 5 to 10 minutes. And it hooked a lot of people. And so I think giving people more like depth of information to dive into would be very worthwhile. So we could probably just link it straight from the About page and just get rid of the one that we have now.
Okay. I was thinking if it would be better to kind of have like a shorter version in the, let's say, in the website, and that is in the About page, and that it basically redirecting to the Gitbook for like a full version, because I expect the Gitbook to be pretty long if we go into the details of like what we're doing and how we're structured and so on. So yeah, maybe that could be an idea to kind of have like some small headlines of the different sections, and then for more information just refer to the Gitbook.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's how Brian set it up initially. So I'm sure he'd prefer that with some nice graphics on the actual like website or the ResearchHub page.
Okay, cool. We can think about that.
Cool. Yeah. So I guess any other thoughts on how to like best welcome new members to the community? I'd say I'm like just getting into the swing of things, just like starting again today. So I didn't have like a ton of topics today, and we can also kind of close things out with just like an open forum if anybody has any thoughts, ideas, feedback that they want to bring up. But before we do that, like any last thoughts on how to welcome new people into the community?
I think maybe like to open something up a little bit, or actually, Alexander, do you have something to say?
No, so I was going to talk about a community I built back in my 20s when I was in Ann Arbor. Built a hackerspace. This is like 2009. Hackerspace was up everywhere, and the one that we built wound up having this reputation for being the very friendliest one that you could possibly come to. And we had a very simple code of context. A very simple code of conduct, which was be awesome to everyone else, and welcome them with enthusiasm of what they're doing. And over time, we had to make that a little bit more nuanced around like, okay, like feedback is good. Like try to make that feedback towards doing something rather than making it about tearing anything down. And we embrace the idea of a duocracy in that code of conduct, and that it's not like you need to wait for permission. It's just do it and do it well. and then share what you've done with everyone is better than sitting on the sidelines being like, hey, maybe I want to help. So we made those principles the very first thing that everyone in that community saw when they joined. And like, that's just what you're signing up for if you want to get involved. And that resulted in it maintaining that reputation for being an extremely friendly place where anyone could come in with any kind of project and wind up getting help in some way for it. And I'm glad that that worked out. So it was all about like, just be friendly, be awesome to each other, be outcome oriented. That was it.
It reminds me of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
It was a good enough thing in the movie, so let's go ahead and put it here.
Do you have a link to the copy for that, Alexander? That would be pretty cool because we probably do need like a, hey, here's what the Research Hub community is about, like front and center right when you join.
Yep, I can do that.
That'd be cool.
It's a wiki link called How to Be Awesome.
How to Be Awesome.
And I put it here in the chat.
Be cool.
Simple stuff, trying to keep it not complicated, not difficult to understand, just oriented towards positivity and helping each other. That's it.
It's awesome.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to also add too was, I guess outside of like directing people when they first come, I guess what are some best ways also to keep people engaged along the way? Because people come in and everyone has all these different skill sets, and then some people are enthusiastic at first, and if there's no engagement maybe there's a little engagement, and then we don't hold that engagement with them for a long time, and so then it kind of falters off. So just, I guess, really I'm wondering what everyone thinks about how we can maintain people who have that interest, and maybe we engage with them early on, but then it falters after that.
There could be like a tiered NFT system where consistent engagement gets rewarded, and then we don't have to decide what it gets, but it could be like get access to parties and things like that. I don't know, that's one way to do it. Open to others.
I think something that could. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Ricardo. What I was going to say is that I don't think it's a problem of motivating people to be engaged. It's instead a problem of having something to be engaged with. I think that's the larger problem. Yeah. So giving NFTs can come later, but people need to know exactly what they're supposed to do. So, so one thing that I was thinking of could be that a core team could sort of decide a plan for engagement for like the first 4 weeks, like sort of a roadmap for everyone who joins the community. And then we can, the onboarding calls that we were planning, we could have them maybe in cohorts of weeks. So every week, everyone who's joined, there's this weekly call that we can hold, wherein we tell them what the community is and what they can expect to do over the next 4 weeks. And then this cohort-wise progression happens for 4 weeks, after which I think they should be well established enough in the communities to take things up by themselves after that. So that is one way that we can go about it.
I like that a lot, like a formalized orientation program. That's a great idea.
Yeah, but in cohorts that you learn iteratively as well. Like the first cohort's going to be rough potentially. You can document what worked, what didn't, and then also the people in each cohort can they can be in a cohort, they can talk to each other, and that also helps retain their engagement over time.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, actually.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Iona, I'm sorry, I'm saying that right?
Yeah, it's all right. Maybe we can evolve the hubs on the Discord channel and like create guilds and specific bounties for every hub. Yeah.
Wait, so each hub would have a guild?
Yeah, or like couple the hubs somehow this
Yeah, I
way.
think we would need to figure out how to merge them because there's so many hubs. That would be, I can't even imagine tracking all that. But I really like the idea though, like figuring out how to.
High level, like medicine hub,
Yeah.
physical science
Yeah,
hub.
yeah.
we wanted to eventually get to the level of like hub specific governance too. So this is sort of like in the future of where we want to go with like hub specific reputation, and like it makes sense. Like if you're like a bioinformaticist and you want to contribute to the bioinformatics hub, like probably like a lot of your network and skill set is relevant to like helping that hub grow. And so yeah, keeping like with like I think makes a lot of sense. And we should definitely probably like the MVP for that is like separate like discords, you know, for each hub, and like having like a working group leader, you know, for lack of a better term, to help organize it.
Do you think
So
like
that's one thing as well.
do you think a channel for it would be enough, like in our current Discord, or would it be something where we need to spin up a new Discord?
Joanna, what do you think?
There's so
I think we can start from the present Discord channel and experiment some thing. Yeah.
Maybe
Sometime.
we could do like a call for leaders, like among the editors, like to see like editors of each hub if one person wants to step up and kind of like lead and grow a like specific Discord channel for it.
Yeah. And maybe the leaders of the hubs could come at the community calls to keep up with the latest news. Or
We could even pin posts at the top of each hub saying, hey, if you want to contribute to the bioinformatics hub, like stop by the Discord channel. Here's a link. Like here's the invite. Come on in.
yeah. Sometimes Discord lets you choose roles or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this reminds me kind of there's a project, like a gaming project that has different houses. It was kind of based off of like Roman time, so they had different Roman houses. And the way it worked was it was almost like each house was its own sub-DAO, and they had a representative, and that representative would come to the biweekly meetings and just fill in on like any of the updates that occurred there. So I think like carving out a section of the community call where something like that could happen down the road would be cool. So if you all think that this is like a cool idea, I could spin up some channels in the Discord sometime this week. Maybe Iona, if you want, I could talk with you and we can discuss which like branches of the hubs we should really focus on, so, like physical sciences, whatever, and then and we can put those channels up.
maybe they should be named in Latin.
I love Latin; it's so cool.
Yeah, Alexander's face. I'm with you.
That's clear
Maybe
sign Evan went to law school.
Oops.
you can connect with the editors because they know better than me how to structure the hub. Because I'm not an editor, so it's just an idea. I mean, I can try, but I think the editors have more experience about what's going on.
Okay, sounds good. Then I'll get in touch with them, and then I'll try to spin something up at some point this week.
I do really like this idea though, because I feel like the number one thing that ResearchHub has to offer at this moment as like a value prop is like the social relationships. And I think that's why we're so sticky at the moment with the people who are sticking. And so this feels like a way to scale that, where like you can meet and network and collaborate with other people in your field, you know, and actually like help your own like career outside of ResearchHub. So I think this is a really good idea. We should definitely do it.
Yeah. Agreed.
That kind of circles back to a tangent I had earlier. One of the previous discussion play out. We mentioned bioinformatics as a hub, and that brings up the idea of social analysis of data sets. Because like you posted the paper about the physical wiring diagram of the immune system recently, and like they barely touched the surface of the data they generated in that paper. But right now, like if I, as like an immunologist and bioinformatics person, were to do something with that, it would be like on my own, just playing with the data, not really posting anything or interacting with anybody. So having some format by which people can socially analyze data that hasn't been fully analyzed before would be of interest, particularly to integrate with like NF Core or Latch AI, as being able to let people come in who don't have great coding skills for those no code or previously set up pipelines to get going on actually getting answers.
Alexander, what would that look like in terms of a feature, just to like help paint the picture for me a little bit more? I'm not familiar with NF Core or Latch AI.
So that's a great question. So like NF Core is all about like no code bioinformatics pipelines, and that will, if I know how to use a terminal, I can take fast Q files and get all the way to gene count matrices without having to know about bowtie and all the other tools in the middle. That's what NF Core is all about, trying to kind of flatten the learning curve in bioinformatics. So as for like social analysis, it'd be a matter of potentially being able to, instead of posting the paper, post a link to a data set and set a bounty around, okay, these analyses were covered in the papers, but these are these other types of analyses that could be done. And you can even set up a jam of people to come in and work on things in specific times, because I also volunteer for an organization called Research the People. That's all about getting the deepest possible data on rare diseases and rare cancers, and then convene virtual hackathons where 60 to 100 people come together to look at that data in real time and reanalyze it. So it's like, could you set up those events to then work on those data sets, and in doing so, in the first half hour to an hour, form some subclusters to work on specific things, and at the end of it, post your results, and they don't have to be perfect or publication quality, they have to be just interesting.
Yeah, this is such a good idea. We should definitely do something like that. Do you think like ResearchHub's current product could like serve as an MVP, or do you think we have to build something else in order to kind of get like to start testing out this use case?
So I think what it has right now in terms of people post papers and set up bounties is enough to get started. It'd just be a matter of, instead of posting a paper, be posting a link to a data set. And it could be just a link to something on GitHub or even on Geo. And I would probably say that we should bias it towards the easiest, most processed things first. So like only work with like projects that already have a gene count matrix ready to go, rather than have to do a whole bunch of pre-processing in QC. So we can get right into the actual interesting questions rather than wait and spend a bunch of time getting it ready to go.
Yeah, we should totally do it. We have like the post feature, so I think we could definitely do that currently. And then like if you wanted us to, we could even build in like a way to upload data sets directly to ResearchHub, so the data set was there to download if you thought it was needed.
I don't think that's particularly needed right now, because like the gold standard right now is like a link of gene counts on Geo. And that's already like hosted by the government, and some of those data sets are huge. So like let the government eat the cost of that.
Totally.
Cool. Highlighting it will also be important, just like with all the bounties and everything, creating a way for people to be able to easily access that. Speaking of which, for that sort of thing, I think we really need to be able to generate bounties in the comments under papers. I'm not sure if that's something that Kobe's working on, but like just the conversation that we're having under the paper that Xander was talking about, I thought like setting up a bounty there could have been really useful. So
yeah, I think that should be shipped like today or tomorrow. Okay. It was ready on Friday, and we're doing like final QA stuff, so that should be just right around the corner.
Okay.
That's a really exciting idea, though, Alexander. We should definitely do that.
There's some people we should potentially introduce you to at Stanford. We're working on something similar right now. Elliot Hirschberg and Ben Cyranosian might be working on something along those lines, and they thought about this a lot as well.
Yeah, very cool. I'd love to chat with them. Do you have my email? It's just pat@researchhub.com.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have it, but let me reach out to them first and see if they're down to talk about it.
Okay, nice. Cool.
Another thing we have, if there's nothing else to talk about, is actually talking to Tyler DM'd me during the meeting. He has like a little survey that he kind of pushed out to some people in his cohort about the onboarding process onto ResearchHub. So what do people feel when they see the website for the first time? How do they engage with it? And so we have some and a couple of my friends also filled out the form, and we've got a couple, I think 7 inquiries so far, Tyler, about the survey. So maybe if there's nothing else, Tyler might be able to present some of that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to if there's time.
Yeah, for sure.
Good to go. Awesome. Let me see if I can share real quick. Okay, let me know if you can see the PowerPoint. I'm going to try and full screen it.
Looking good.
Looking good. Okay, cool. Awesome. I lost my full screen here one time. Okay, cool. Yeah, so the purpose of the whole survey really was just to kind of gauge what new people are seeing when they go to the website, like what works, what doesn't work. because we talked about redesigning the homepage to kind of attract more people. And so the first section was really getting to know like what these new users are seeing. So I gave them a list of something like, all of these adjectives and just said, what are you kind of feeling when you go to that front page? And the most common response was busy, overwhelming, but exciting. As you can see, some of the other ones, I may have biased it slightly towards negative ones just to kind of get some feedback. So you see a couple people put like, dull. I don't think it's as organized, and average, but also curious. So leave something to be desired on the front page. And then I kind of asked them in their own words, what is ResearchHub? And a lot of people tried to compare it to either, ResearchGate or Reddit or even Twitter. And they didn't kind of catch the novelty. I didn't think they kind of caught all the subtleties. So you can see one person says, platform to democratize research and encourage engagement using the research coin. I think in general, most people kind of missed the whole research coin aspect. And just so you know, the people I'm interviewing on this, 2 of them are from Jeff. I think they were PhD students. And then the other 5 were from my cohort, were also all PhD students. And so this next one was, how would you rate the ease of browsing for any manuscript? And most people said it wasn't too bad. A couple said it was difficult to find, but not clearly stated. So not a major find on this one. And also just interrupt me if you have any questions on these 2.
I guess, Tyler, I'm wondering if you've spoken with Kobe yet, because he almost quoted like these exact results earlier today during one of our calls. So it's great to hear that like on the exact same page.
I've not spoken to him about these yet, actually. I was hoping to get over 10 responses before it, but I can DM him as well.
Yeah, he will love to see this. This is like confirming exactly what he thinks.
Awesome. Yeah. I'll just keep going here. So then I said, in your own words, what are some things that kind of set it aside from these other aggregators, just kind of anticipating that they would compare it? And so people liked the incentive structure. People wished that there would be a more robust reputation score because they thought it could alleviate the problem of ResearchGate's answer-based system. So you can get these answers, but it's hard to gauge, is this the right answer? Like if I'm a total novice and I want the right answer, can I trust this random guy? Maybe, maybe not. So the reputation could really help. People were getting excited about the peer review system when they kind of caught the idea that you could take this a little farther. One person had an interesting comment, said that your coin will likely follow a rich get richer mechanism. And I personally don't think that's the case, but we could also maybe talk more about tokenomics, just something interesting to keep in mind. Then was the mission of ResearchHub clear to you upon visiting the website? And it's about average, so not too bad. Maybe leave something to be desired, but nothing crazy. And then this is a funny one. I said, how would you rate of note-taking in ResearchHub? And most people didn't know there was actually a notebook feature. I think because it's hidden underneath the publish tab, people really didn't take the time to navigate to it. It also has a very slight delay in the load, so that might be enough for people to just kind of click away. And then would they be likely to return? A lot of maybes. So I think this is, in my opinion, it's people waiting to see more features roll out, more content. Maybe their friends mention it to them again and they come back. But really only one person said they wouldn't come back. And then what are the things that they would prefer were formatted differently? This goes back to just being kind of busy, overwhelming. So they really wanted things more organized. They didn't like that there was this big wall of text. Even if it wasn't the first page that you hit, was like this home page, they thought in general that page style was a little busy. They said a lot of the sidebars were kind of very similar to the core. So if you can kind of hide the content and then allow you to like expand the paper, just showing the title and maybe some activity bar, could be nice. Also, they recommended reorganizing the hubs. They thought they were kind of like vaguely broad and then vaguely tight. So I think that's just, it's early. So you could always rearrange them into, this person calls them sub-hubs, engineering, biomedical, chemical, mechanical. There's ways you could do that. This was a very nice one. They would like a clear distinction between posts, papers, published works, and open questions. Just for ease of browsing, if they want to interact with only questions, it could be a lot easier. The other 2 are, pretty basic. Okay. And then which new features they'd like to see, all about the same thing. I won't go through a lot of these, but one interesting one was the funding via grant applications. And I think Jeff talked about this a little bit. It's like something to be desired. So talked about most of those already. The second phase of this survey was trying to understand how much blockchain they'd actually interacted with. And so about 71% of people have actually interacted with blockchain tech, whether it's MetaMask, non-fungible tokens, or people may have interpreted this as like Robinhood buying Ethereum, but at least they know what it is. So, and then how are they interested? Most of them were interested. Only one person was extremely disinterested. Pretty average. And then how would they rate their understanding of the research coin? I think in general, people went optimistic on this. I think it's a little vague, the research coin description, and it's, there's more to be written about it. So I think this kind of just tells us to blow it out when we're revamping the whole website. And how would you rate the utility of the research coin? They gave it mostly useful. I think, let's see, no one actually said extremely useful, and only one person said very useful. So if we're looking for, like, does this coin really jump out to get you on the platform, which is currently like the most novel part of it, I would say probably doesn't jump out just yet. And then what features are most attractive of the coin? People have just said, tipping authors, you can hold it and sell it like it's money, and they like the bounty system, which is cool. And then obviously they want more tipping for impactful authors. And I think this was in regards to becoming like a publishing agency. For the third section, and there's only 4 sections, so it's almost done here. But for this section, I actually linked them 2 articles that Jeff sent me. One was about fractionalizing ownership of your authorship, so NFTs for publications, and the other was about like a decentralized science framework. And so I had them read those 2 articles and then kind of rethink about how they viewed the website. And so I said, after you read these articles, how would you rate the utility of the research coin? And it seemed to get more positive overall, where actually one person put extremely useful, 2 put very, and we still had some average ones. So knowing these big picture topics help people become more excited about the project in general. And then how would you rate your skepticism? I think a lot of people were very skeptical, or at least somewhat skeptical, that this would actually be implemented in academics, is where most of these people were interviewed. And they actually give some reasons, I think, in the next or 2 questions from now. Yeah. So a lot of people had misconceptions about like how this would actually become, kind of like everyone's using it. And so one person thought that all authors would need to be on ResearchHub in order for them to like receive their tokens, but something that can be clarified later. Also, the research publications, if you're going to become a publisher, you need to be reputable. So obviously, you need to build some prestige with it. People don't necessarily understand the technology of blockchain, so this means we can give them some introductory blockchain videos. What is the technology? What is controversial? Why is it so up and down? Right of ownerships. This is an interesting one. They said that the right of ownership to the IP is actually owned by most universities, and I think that's actually part of the contract that the PIs sign. So I'd be curious to hear about if there was a response, Jeff, if you know anything about that. Like if they were to publish the results, how would the IP be distributed?
It depends if there's like IP that comes out of it, or like if there's ownership of like the quote unquote publication. So like the university doesn't own the publication that comes out. I mean, to be honest, the publisher probably owns the publication because they're running the server that has the publication on it, and your name is just associated with it. And so the NFT here would be kind of a badge to show that you have some kind of ownership of that publication personally, and then people can thread things like if there was IP that came along with that, then down the road, then maybe you can get some funding or something like that, or maybe the university also gets a percentage.
Okay.
So I can speak to that for a moment. Universities regard anything produced with their resources as their IP under the Bayh-Dole Act. And that's been standing for a long time. So anything that's invented in the course of research is owned by the university, and researchers or somebody else needs to license it out from the university if they actually file a patent on it. However, they only file patents on a small fraction of what gets produced. And if you publish before you get a provisional patent, that publication does count as public disclosure, and then invalidates that being novel and private so that you can establish IP on it. At the same time, I think you're right that journals are going to regard the papers as their own for copyright. But what could be done here instead is to link that authorship NFT as a kind of replacement for the ORC ID. Because like as an academic, every single application I ever do, I have to get them my ORC ID, which is a durable record of all my authorship contributions.
Yeah, that's exactly how I was thinking about it. Where it would just kind of be like your ORC ID, but all under your like wallet identity. So you maintain kind of ownership of that. And if anything happened to ORC ID, then some of that data could get lost, but it's always on the blockchain when it's an NFT in your wallet.
Gotcha. And yeah, that totally makes sense. I actually spoke to this individual after, and they were talking about so if you're to generate royalties on your citations, then very likely the university would try and get a piece of those royalties as well. And I think that is like the subtlety that kind of makes it like a gray area in terms of law, just in my opinion, because they don't really care about publications right now, right? Because they don't generate any money. So, maybe there's something there on the law side. Yeah, so I'll just keep going with it. Unless there's other questions, feel free to interrupt. But this was an interesting one too, is people think it's going to be difficult to agree on the percentage of work. I think it'll actually kind of address the issue of like grabbing people who are famous in your field and putting them as an author, because now you actually have to pay them, right? If you assume that you're published with ResearchCoin and you're getting this royalties on your citations, then you're basically paying that person to be on your author list. It's a very long-term view. Interesting. And then one last thing for this is that people thought that it could be used as like a way of rerouting money back into companies. If they're to get these royalties on their citations, then for example, pharma companies, when they fail all their drugs, which typically makes the cost of each drug, a lot higher, they could publish their results. And then if people build on those previously cited things that actually failed, then they could recoup some of the financial, incentive. So kind of an interesting take. And so this one, I asked them to rank how exciting each of these topics were and how they kind of related to ResearchHub. And so there were royalties paid to authors, ownership of publications, quantifiable reputation, money back to authors from publishing, a power imbalance between authors and publishers being disrupted, and providing worth to contributing authors, as well as distribution of intellectual property. And a lot of people were very, very excited by most of these, kind of showing that there is this like hunger in the field for like, technology adapting to the field and kind of addressing these weird problems that just have persisted for a while. And then the very last part of the survey just was trying to understand like who these people are, And so the first question was, what positions have they held in research? And all 7 of these people, I guess, currently are doctoral students. One has been employed in the industry, and there's an undergrad. So we know these people have been experienced in at least authorship and publication, most likely. Some of them have been reviewers, some have been senior authors, supporting authors. So if we need to reach back out to these people for further information, a lot of them provide their emails too, which is cool. And this is kind of like the last big question. There's one tied in tandem to it next. But this is about reputation in the field and how people think that it's currently evaluated. And so there's a list of things. They're kind of small, it's hard to see, but from left to right, it's number of citations, number of publications, H-index, number of research positions held, tier of research positions held, number of articles reviewed, tier of articles reviewed, interactions virtually, interactions in person, discussion content, and learning content produced. And so really just trying to give them the breadth of everything to see what they care about or what they think the field cares about. And it's very heavily weighted towards number of citations, number of publications, H-index, by association, and also the tier of research position held. And very few people really had, kind of knew one way or the other on this kind of gray area, interactions, discussions, and learning material. But when I asked them next of how you think that it should be characterized, it kind of flipped. And a lot of people that, thought that currently it's not weighted very well would actually like it to be. So they care about these virtual and in-person interactions, and they're very exciting to them. And also the same thing with the discussion content and learning material. So for the reputation score on the ResearchHub, this might be something to take into account, is how are we actually going to score reputation? Well, people are telling us that probably we should be weighting their interactions more and the content that they're producing for the field. So kind of an interesting comparison. And you can see them just above and below each other. I'll leave it up here. This is the last slide.
Yeah, Tyler, actually, there was one user, I think Ricardo was talking to him earlier. I think his name is Johnny. I think they want to plan to do a hackathon where they're going to have a hackathon to draft up the best algorithm for the reputation score. So awesome. Hopefully a lot of this input can go towards guiding that.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd love to talk to them too. I can give them full results for the survey if it's helpful too.
Yeah, absolutely. I can confirm that. I just talked to Johnny a couple of days ago, and we're going in that direction in the sense that, the next event that we're probably going to host is an hackathon based on reputation. So we have different people kind of proposing different systems. So I think this is actually extremely helpful. So yeah, Tyler, absolutely. I'll keep you in the loop, and I'll send you a message so that we can sync on this.
Awesome. Yeah, that'd be great. Cool. I'm glad you guys like this. Definitely, I don't want to take up any more time. I'll take the slide down here, but if you have other questions too, let me know. I can show anybody the full results if they need.
Yeah, this is amazing. Thank you, Tyler. This is
Sure.
Exactly what we need in customer research. If you have a link, I'd love to share it with our engineering team, because we were talking exactly about this a couple hours ago, and I think it provides a lot of context to some of the things we're thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if you think of other questions to add too, that's great. We have 7 responses right now, so it's not a ton. I'll be passing it around too. So I'll put the link in the Discord in the general chat, actually, if that's useful.
Cool. And if you want, we can like tweet it out too to try and get some like more of our followers and stuff to fill it out. Because I think like, yeah, if we get like 20, 30 people fill this out, it would be super helpful information.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think it's an awesome idea.
Yeah, I also think it's a great idea, Patrick.
Cool. Yeah, so I guess, does anybody have any thoughts or questions about Tyler's presentation?
Other than that, it was great.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, great. Really comprehensive, really. Like, as you said, if you can get like, I don't know, more people to fill out the survey, we can get some really good hints onto like where we're heading and what we should, prioritize in the future. Great work.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And like I said, I'll be passing it around too. So I think we can hit 20 pretty easily for sure.
Yeah, I'll also share that personally through my LinkedIn. I'm not really big on Twitter, so I'll try to share that on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
I guess like an extension of this. So my fiance was one of the people that actually filled out that form, and so I talked to her a little bit more, just to kind of flesh out some of the ideas that she was thinking about, like when she was filling that out. And one thing that she felt, and I gotta preface this with the fact that she's probably the most academic that I've ever met. She's just like the most like. She's probably one of the best representations of like a true like academic grad student who wants to go down the academic route. And so one of the main things she wanted to see was actually something that Patrick, you mentioned last time we talked, which was becoming a preprint server. And she said she would find like an immense amount of like utility in like bounties for peer review. And she said she would feel weird by imposing a peer review on someone unless they requested it. So I think like putting up like a request for a peer review on a preprint sounds like it's like kind of seems from an academic side of things quite in demand.
Another thing which is had me thinking a lot is Silvio's presentation from SciCon, where he said that he thought it was like a waste of resources to have every paper have peer review, and that really only like the top percentage of papers that are being used by others in their own work should have peer review. So I could see a system with upvoting where it's like if you hit a certain threshold of upvotes, then an automatic bounty is given to that preprint in order to like have someone else come in and peer review it. I think that could be a nice way to allocate resources towards like the preprints that people find most interesting. But yeah, I totally agree, Jeff. We should definitely do something like that.
It could even be traffic based.
What was that?
It could even be traffic based. It's like which preprint is getting the most eyes on it. That's probably the one that actually needs it. Because if there's a really long tail on preprints of like noise that nobody has time to read, and then exciting things that like everyone wants to read.
100%. So one thing I want to throw out there, and we're like considering what big feature to build next quarter. One thing I'm personally very excited about is a citation manager. So like Mendeley exists right now, and they keep track of like who saves like what papers, like how often they're clicked on, and those like that data gets inputted into Altmetric, and I think they sell it, as big data to like whoever is interested. But we could have kind of like a conglomerate metric based on like upvotes and who's saving what and how often something's cited, to direct like attention towards like certain articles and maybe even reward them based on like a whole like, I guess, like collage of different, potential metrics. So yeah, just wanted to like take people's temperatures on if we built a citation manager, would that be useful? And I think the value prop here would be improving on Zotero or Mendeley by paying people to use it. So like when you interact with the citation manager, you're earning research coin. And then like when you like, add comments for your own work, you can choose to make these public and make them eligible for like research coin earnings via like ResearchHub's like main website.
I'm gonna go on a limb and say that that's not particularly valuable, like as an academic, because like I want to spend the least time with the Zotero possible. It's what I'm doing at the end of writing the grant or a paper. It's part of like taking notes along the way. But at the same time, like, they aren't great tools. but it's also like citation management is just like a thorny formatting and note-taking problem. As a result, all the tools are kind of crappy. So the question is like, what would ResearchHub do that makes it a completely killer edge to use that as a citation manager versus something else? And unless there's like a very, very clear feature that would be killer, then maybe it's not the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's great to hear. I think in theory, the like V1's value prop would be you're earning financial value for using it, so you're getting paid for your data rather than Elsevier just using your data. So I don't know if that's actually compelling enough to have people switch, but that would be the thought process.
And that's great. It's just I know that most academics like they have their setup and they want because it's overhead tool work that you want to do one day a year and no more can keep from it. So like they're on paper pile for the past 20 years. That's where they're staying.
Totally. That's super good insight to know. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to second that. I hate those kind of citation managers so much that I never even used them. I always just had my own like folder breakdown and specific like files. So that would be very unexciting for me.
Cool. Yeah, thank you, Lynn. That's good to know.
Yeah, I also feel like these citations manager, they're not kind of like compatible with each other. Like sometimes it happens that when I do like a first draft of a version and then I send it to another one that uses a different citation manager, we have to kind of like put it in plain text and kind of like import it again. So it's kind of like pain in the ass a bit. So having another version that is not so commonly used is gonna be difficult. Like I use EndNote. A lot of people use Mendeley, and when I share versions, I am like, hey, I'm gonna put the citations in the comments. Please add them in because we have different versions of the citations manager. So we should find something universal. If that becomes universal, that would be pretty useful. But yeah.
Yeah, and it definitely wouldn't be universal to get started. So I can see that being a pretty big barrier.
Maybe I'm sorry, but just to go on this topic really quickly, maybe a useful thing to do would be to link to a critical prior paper or replication. Because the thing that I like resent the most about doing literature review is like how much time I have to spend to figure out whether a given result has actually been replicated in multiple contexts or not. Whereas if instead there was if I was paid to say like, hey, yes, this interaction's been seen in 4 different papers, here's how they are all linked together. That's then extremely useful. And then that's also an artifact that other researchers can search and see that, yes, somebody has already annotated that this result has been replicated.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Sorry. No, sorry, Patrick.
I was going to say, I think it's like Cite.ai maybe does something kind of like that. Have you ever played around with them?
I have. I've also tried InfoNotice for the same thing. But it's wonky. It doesn't work all that well. So I still have to do it manually to have confidence in it and be able to use it going forward.
Interesting. That's good insight. Thank you.
Why is it wonky? What about it?
So it returned results that weren't like actually in the pathway or in vastly different model organisms. Like I work on cancer. That's great and cool. It's good to see that a similar protein-protein interaction was like seen in flies or worms, but that's not really relevant to me. And that's what it found most of. You have a question or a thought?
Yeah. I wanted to say that the blockchain mechanism permits to evolve the system, not like, for example, how current databases are managed in SQL and stuff like that. And I think that this could be very useful for specific questions and even for medicine and stuff like that. I mean, sometimes you want an author or a particular citation, and I think that could help. I mean, look at SciHub, how amazing they are managing the citations. So maybe we can evolve the system in time because we need more concrete information nowadays. These are my thoughts.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. I think long term, assuming we're able to find product market fit and have people like publishing through ResearchHub, we'd probably want to put all that data onto a chain. Not sure which one, not sure what direction that would go. But I think long term, that's kind of what we're thinking. but we'd want to like establish like the feature set that helps us like grow organically first.
I'm gonna toss an idea out there around paying people to annotate figures. Because if I want to do literature review quickly, and this is speaking from molecular biology, I don't know if it works out for other fields as well. Like going through figures is the fastest way for me to get up to speed on things. But like right now, I can't go on any of the academic search engines and just search figures for given interactions. So if there were instead people uploading annotations in systems biology markup language for those figures, telling the machine what it shows, that's incredibly valuable as well. And that plays right into replication as well. Because then you can count replication automatically if you have enough figures, then upload it into it. And that creates an incentive for people moving forward to publish their figures as a micropublication each. And so what is this figure showing? Here's a micropublication that goes along with it. You now have authorship, and there's machine readable metadata associated with that figure, so it's now searchable.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Do you think it'd be possible to get started on just open access figures? I know there's like some tricky legal things with like copyrighted papers.
I think it absolutely would be. There's enough open source figures out there in journals that work with plenty there.
That's a really interesting idea, especially with Kobe's like new kind of like visual focused homepage that he wants to build.
I think that's why Polyplex has failed. A while back, like they allowed people to put together like machine readable hypotheses, bridging papers together, but they weren't actually letting you search and find things that were relevant to your hypothesis.
Yeah, that's great.
There's a ton of value in having a better search function on ResearchHub. You know, compared to what we get from like Google Scholar and PubMed and so on. They're very basic. So if you can, find a way to differentiate what we can offer from those, that would be a really good value proposition for ResearchHub. So yeah, ton of value there. Because when I go to looking for some images, what I do is go on Google Images and typing what I want to search for, but a ton of other stuff just comes in. So I feel that could be really interesting. And Tyler, I just took a look at the website that you put in the chat. So how does that work? Like you find like similar papers? Because something that I was thinking about it is really helpful in what I do is kind of like going back to like papers that are linked in kind of like a way like this author used this paper for part of the protocol, and then this other author used that author. So is that what this website does? Kind of like connecting papers that have kind of like cited other papers?
That's exactly what it does. Yeah, it builds connected trees. So for example, if one paper A cites paper B and paper B cites paper C, you'd see a bubble of that connection. You can click through them. And so it's really helpful for like lineage papers. So, if you have some like, for example, I do brain MRIs. And so if somebody made an atlas in like 1980, 90, 2000, 2010, 20, you could very easily track it all the way through, as well as some of the adjacent methods that they've all used. You can kind of see how they interact with each other. It's purely citation based though. So it's not really search terms, just is the citation in the paper.
Oh, just the citation. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, a point that I brought up during Scicon is that citations are not all the same. Like you get like 100 citations in a paper, but only like 3 or 4 of them are actually like really important, key citations for the paper. So finding a kind of like directly show to someone that look at the paper the key citations would be really helpful. At least in my case, when I look for papers that are have like 100 citations, I want to find the citations that are really important there.
I agree. I think that'd be awesome to have. Maybe it could be a small bounty thing as well. Is like if you're uploading your own paper, for example, and you know which ones were most relevant for you, just tag them, star them, or highlight them.
Yeah, I was thinking about something similar. If we can have that kind of like bootstrap from the community, where we can have some people going through the papers, and I kind of did it in some of the summaries that I made back in the days, like kind of like 2 or 3 months ago. I was highlighting like key citation, key references. Like for example, this device is made using this method and this protocol and so on. So if you can have this done by the community, I think it will be a good way. And then we have just to find a way to cluster all this data together, so it's already available for people that want to search for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. So we're at just about an hour now, a little bit over. Does anybody have any final thoughts before we sign off? This has been an amazing call. So thanks everybody for all the ideas.
It's that post-Scotland energy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks everybody. We'll see you next week.
All right.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.